racing along the ridge, and would you believe there's a paragliding contest on today too, so we've only got about 12 of them to dodge. Oh, up we go. They're all in the good bit. It's fantastic. Oh, look at that. Might scare the bejesus out of them if I pass one too close, so we'll keep a bit of distance. It's a polite thing to do, isn't it?
Hi YouTube, how you going? Well, we're here in Taupo. This is meant to be a gliding contest. As you can see, the weather's rubbish. We cancelled the whole event, sadly. Luckily, this is just one of many contests this season, so we've got more coming along shortly. So as you just saw, we flew through some paragliders and hang gliders during the recent nationals in Matamata. And we thought it'd be really fun to have a chat to some paraglider pilots to get their point of view about what it's like to fly close to gliders and the behaviour of gliders, and what we can do as glider pilots to help paraglider pilots feel more comfortable with us whizzing past them at high speed. So we've got a couple of interviews, let's plow into them. Well, today we've got Louis. He's a paraglider pilot and a real glider pilot. Is real glider pilot the right word? How are you, Louis?
I've got a floppy hat now, so does that make me a real glider pilot?
Exactly. Tell us a bit about yourself. Louis, what do you do?
Look, I've been paragliding for the last 10 years here in New Zealand and around the globe. Four-time New Zealand champion, got a few New Zealand records under my belt, and also the cross-country league. Just more recently, in the last sort of year and a half, 2 years, I've been learning to glide up in Wellington and now down in the Marama, the heart of the good stuff.
Awesome, that's great. And you enjoying it?
Yeah, look, it's really it's interesting. There's some good crossovers there that I think my paragliding helps the gliding, and then vice versa. But yeah, certainly a different body of knowledge, I think, and different level of knowledge that's floating around in the gliding circles, which I've been really interested in tapping into.
Yeah. Well, I thought you'd be the perfect person to have a chat about what it's like for paraglider pilots and maybe hang glider pilots. What is it like when you have gliders flying close by, and what you think of it and what other paraglider pilots think of it? Do most paraglider pilots actually mind if gliders come and fly close?
Look, I can't talk for other glider pilots. I can just, I guess, talk for myself, but I love it. It's the highlight of my day. If I'm in the backcountry and flying alone, and someone I know in a glider comes along, it's awesome. So I just had that on the Hunter Range the other day, and probably half a dozen to a dozen times that I've flown with gliders.
And I guess some people
are probably not as enthusiastic about flying close to other gliders because they perhaps don't know or understand how they fly and the fear of collision. But the stats show that it's actually quite low chance of collision. Probably more likely to, in a glider, collide with another glider at coming on head on at closing speed of close to 300-400 km an hour.
Yeah, exactly. You've got the higher closing speed, and also just the profile of them is a lot thinner and harder to see, isn't it? Then I generally find the paragliders and hang gliders are reasonably easy to see.
Yes, yeah, and that's the comments that I've had from other glider pilots that we really stand out. Often they can't, the couple of comments recently, often they can't tell whether we're going forwards or backwards because we appear to them like a stationary object.
Yeah, I've noticed that as well. How close would you say is too close? Or for you personally, is there not really too close? Is it?
I don't think it's too close. I think, for myself personally, but I generally find that I'm turning tighter than a sailplane. So if they're flying around the outside and we've got visual on each other, then I'm more comfortable. If there's some vertical separation between the glider and the paraglider, then that's often good for me. Whether I'm flying with another paraglider or a hang glider, that separation means that even if we've got a different turning radius, that there's less risk of collision.
Yeah. And which do you find climbs faster? Do you find the paragliders outclimb the gliders?
I'm often finding that we're out climbing the gliders just because we can turn tighter and in the core, and particularly in weaker conditions, that we're more able to stay up. Takes a little bit of thermal really to allow a glider to stay up more so than a paraglider.
And have you ever experienced any wake turbulence from a glider or a plane going past? Is it something we need to worry about?
No, not on a glider. No, I haven't experienced that in a glider at all. I think one of the things, in terms of avoiding collisions and stuff like that, is being able to see the other person on the opposite side of the thermal. So I'm always much more comfortable if we're going around the thermal where we can see each other. Because as you know, on a glider, from about 45 degrees behind us is a bit of a dead spot, and it's difficult to see. We have to really turn to kind of look at it. In a paraglider, we see you guys coming generally.
Interesting. Yeah, so from a glider pilot's point of view, it's much the same as thermaling with another glider. You want to try and be on the opposite side of the thermal as best you can.
Yes, correct. Yeah, and generally the sailplane pilots that I've flown with are flying a wider arc, and so even if the speed's different, that you can still maintain that visual.
I don't know. Do paragliders use FLARM at all? I guess it might be more popular overseas, is it?
Yeah, it's probably more popular overseas, not as popular here because we don't have the traffic density that we do in, say, France, along, the traffic lines with, the energy lines which everyone is flying along. I understand that's a problem for glider pilots as well, being able to see each other, and that's kind of mandatory in particularly in gliding comps now. But yeah, more and more of the instruments like the Audi N now is just about to come out with it. And there are a number of devices now that have that. Built into that, some of them also have cable avoidance, so that's a real risk for us. Flying close to the hill, often those cables are invisible, so people are using it not only for the FLARM reasons, but also for cable avoidance.
Wow, do you have any other tips for glider pilots who want to fly near paraglider pilots?
I reckon more of the paraglider pilots should just come gliding, and vice versa.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So when are you back down again, Tim?
I'm itching to go for a paraglider flight at some stage. That would be great. So it'll make a good video too. So.
Oh, fair enough.
Cool. All right. Well, thanks very much for your time, and we'll see you down the South Island sometime soon, hopefully.
Okay. No worries. We'll catch you later.
All right, next up we've got Patrick de Koning from the Netherlands. And thanks for joining us, Patrick. Appreciate you spending some time with us.
Yeah,
and
thank you, Tom.
It was just a bit coincidental. You sent an email the day after I interviewed Louis asking about the same topic. So great to have you on, and we can have a chat about what it's like to fly near gliders in a paraglider. So tell us a bit about yourself. What do you do, and where do you fly, and things like that?
Hi, well, my name is Patrick de Koning from the Netherlands. It's a long story, but we do a lot of paragliding. Let's keep it to that. Soar coasting, mountain flying in the Alps, or here the Dutch dunes. It's a very nice spot, with very long spots. You can fly a lot, and and then we go from here to France or Germany, Austria, Switzerland. So it's really nice areas to fly. So,
No, Europe would be. I'd love to go to Europe sometime, do some gliding, and but Netherlands is pretty flat, isn't it? So you have to get out of there to do some mountain flying, don't you?
Yeah, for the mountain flying, it's a bad area here. The coast flying is perfect. It's one of the best places in the world, I think. And there's a lot of towing to fly in the flatlands. Long distance rallies are pretty well done here, especially in the northern part of Germany. Yeah, so it's possible, but really for the mountain you have to drive it a while. So yeah.
Yeah. And so what's your experience been with gliders and flying near gliders? You're on a paraglider. How often are you meeting gliders? Have you had any close encounters with them?
Yeah, we had some close encounters, but it's you always see them. Well, first of all, it's always yeah. All of a sudden they're there. It goes really quick. You don't see them. All of a sudden they're there, and either popping out of clouds or yeah, zipping by, and you never actually know if they see you or not. That's the whole thing. So you just die there and feeling like a sitting duck, and yeah. So that was one of my questions. How do you guys, as sailplane pilots, see us and cope with our us being there and yeah, especially when we're with multiple people, multiple pilots. So.
Yeah, from a glider's point of view, we usually see the paragliders, especially around our country here in the Waikato. But when you're in the mountains, there's far more visual noise. It becomes much harder to pick out gliders or paragliders or sailplanes or hang gliders. And I noticed in the South Island here in our mountains, flying with gliders, or sailplanes as you call them, impossible to see sometimes. And I can imagine paragliders, if you've got nice solid backgrounds like clouds and things, we can normally see them very easily. But if you have mountainous terrain with patchy snow in particular, it can be very hard to spot anything.
Yeah. Well, for us is that because our speed, of course, is very low, but we see other paragliders because they are colored, and they're close by, etc. But sailplanes, they're white, and most of the time they blend in the background, and then all of a sudden they're and there they are, and then you always like, oh, okay, is it going okay? Does he see me? No.
Yeah. Yeah. Is there anything I know some pilots rock their wings, or I tend to just wave quite clearly just to try and let the pilot know that I can see them. But of course, you often have passed them by that stage. So I don't know, does rocking wings or anything like that help?
I don't know, because I might, but there's no communication really. So you have to be really close to actually see a wave and then a wave back. And what you were saying, that you don't see them which direction they're flying, the paragliders. So how is that? And then
yeah, that's right. When I wave at them, I have no idea if they can see me or not. It's because I don't know which way they're going. So
no. And it's also not that you can honk or anything,
No, although the thought of putting some air horns on my glider has crossed my mind. Which would be perfect in that situation.
Yeah, precisely.
No, I guess from a glider pilot's point of view, the most useful thing we could do is just do an obvious deviation of some sort, so it's very clear that we've seen you. And someone suggested that the other day, even when you've got two gliders or sailplanes heading straight on, if one of them does an obvious deviation, it makes it clear that they've seen that person. So that's probably the best thing we can do, and just make sure we're not on a collision course.
Yeah, but how is it done with when you enter a gaggle of paragliders? Like, I thought you had some footage of a contest, a paragliding contest. Because then you have to watch everywhere. I mean, it's not only one. I mean, so it's...
Yeah, so I've got some footage. I've got some footage I haven't shown you yet of flying through the contest, and this was actually along a ridge, so I was just going in a straight line, cruising past the paragliders as they whiz past. And so I didn't actually stop in thermal with any in that situation, but I have thermaled with paragliders in the past, and generally I try and just join them like I would a normal sailplane or glider, and try and get on the opposite side. And of course the speeds are different, but the circle diameter is usually much smaller as well. So even though they're going slower, the turning radius, turning speed is actually not too dissimilar, and you can normally stay on the other side and go around them reasonably easily. And I'll slot in some footage of me doing that with a paraglider from a previous flight. But so how have you found it? Have you had any sailplanes actually stop in thermal with you?
Yeah, absolutely. And what I noticed is that although their radius is large, we tend to thermal faster. Our height gain is faster. And then I was wondering, do they actually look up? I don't know what your point of view is. Are you actually looking up or more forwards? It's So so if you're higher, most of the time you're looking down, you see them and then circling underneath you, and if you go up, then they follow, and eventually they if you hit the top, you go to cloud base, and then sometimes they come alongside you, and then they're gone. So
no, I've what have I done? What was I going to say? Yeah, I've certainly had the visibility from the cockpit. So we have great visibility up and out and down to our left and right, but not straight ahead underneath us, because of the panel and things is right in front. So
for us, it's the other way around, by the way. Because of the wing, we don't have visual.
Can't look straight up.
Yeah.
Yeah, so when we join a gaggle, we are always trying not to have another glider underneath us like this, because we cannot see them underneath, and if they pull up or get a burst of lift, they could come up and hit the bottom of us. So we do everything we can to stay opposite sides, unless the height's very different. And we'd do exactly the same for paragliders as well, which would mean we can, if we're looking down on you, there's one underneath, they'll be climbing up through the middle because they might be in the core, climbing up faster. So that's a potential danger that they could come up underneath us. And so I guess it's our responsibility to try and avoid that. Once a paraglider's above, it's pretty safe, although a glider, when joining a thermal, can pull up into the thermal to slow down, and the height gain can be like hundreds of meters. So that's probably the bigger danger, is when we're joining a thermal when there's gliders. And we have the same issue with sailplanes as well. Got to make sure you got to try not to pull up, try and reduce your speed before you get into the actual thermal with the glider.
Okay, but you have good visual on the gliders, the paragliders. Yeah, okay.
So the joining technique we have and we're taught is, if there's a gaggle, you have to come in on the outside of them, which is usually sink, and stay out there until they go a bit tighter and you can slot in. So you need to be able to slot in and have a bit of distance between you. So that's generally what we try and do. And of course some pilots aren't very good at doing that, and so watch out for them.
Hey, and I don't know if you guys are using the FLARM indicator. Is it well used in the South New Zealand, and does it help actually? Is it a good thing to use? Or?
Yeah, most of our gliding contests now are FLARM mandatory, and so most gliders who are doing cross country and contest flying in New Zealand, we do all have FLARM now. Different people have different displays. I'm lucky I've got a reasonably big display which can actually show me all the aircraft on it, and that is really, really good for situational awareness when you're going, especially if you're going in a straight line and you can see aircraft up ahead that you're going to approach. And so what do you guys use for FLARM? I know in Europe most of the sailplanes use FLARM, but what do the paragliders use?
Yeah, we're using this kind of devices. It's just the Vario and your GPS and everything. But there's a FLARM beacon inside. You have different varieties, color display, black and white, but it's all the same. It's only a beacon, only broadcast your position, speed, and altitude, and but we cannot receive anything. So we are not seeing anything from other people. That's also because if you're flying close together and we have like 30 paragliders close by, it's just a cloud on your screen. So it will go off all the time, the alarm, so it's not necessary. And of course, yeah, once again, I think the speed is too low, so we cannot actually diverse anyway. So yeah, really that quickly.
Well, I would say it's even just broadcasting your location out for the sailplanes will be a huge benefit, because most of the sailplanes have FLARM built in, so they'll get an alarm if they're on a collision course with you, which is then they'll do something, hopefully. So that sounds well worthwhile having, even if you're not getting the FLARM data.
Yeah, indeed.
And I guess
did you ever see like FLARM broadcast from paragliders, or is it just like there's a you only see this obstacle there?
I suspect not many are using FLARM in New Zealand, because our traffic densities are so low here anyway, and you know we have paragliding quite often on our local ridge nearby, but the number of times I've actually flown close to paragliders is about 3 or 4 in the last few years. So we don't fly close to paragliders very often, so they're probably not worried about sailplanes very often either.
Well, it's a little busier here with paragliders in the mountains.
Yeah, we see the FLARM displays in Europe, and you know the mountain ranges are, and that's the thing, you're all flying along the same energy lines as well. Whereas here we've got more flat plains with a few ridges, so we tend to scatter all over the countryside when we're flying.
Precisely.
Did you have any other questions for gliders?
Well, the ridge flying, that's kind of what interests me, because actually you're very close. I think that's even closer than flying in thermal, isn't it? With paragliders, you're more condensed to where the energy is. And I don't know.
No, I'd say we can usually be a bit further spaced out on the ridge. Depends what ridge it is, but usually the ridge lift for the gliders is pretty a wide area. So if there's a paraglider, if there's like 5 paragliders, we could easily go around them, not a problem, as long as we see them.
Okay. And does the color of the paragliders help at all, or not? You don't see just an obstacle there, or how do you see that?
Yeah, I haven't noticed much difference with the colours, but I know they did studies many years ago on sailplane colours, and the 2 colours that really stood out the most were white or black, and anything else, depending on the conditions, isn't as good.
No.
And I know in the mountainous terrain, a lot of people like putting orange stripes and things on their wingtips, which would certainly... so if you're in snowy conditions, probably a bright orange paraglider would be better than a white one. But solid colours are usually best as well. If you've got stripes and things on them, that tends to camouflage them more in general. And I notice most paraglider designs do have stripes and different 2 shades of colours and things.
Yeah. It's quite,
I suspect if they made them just solid colours, we'd see them more easily.
Okay, so you're actually saying more colours is worse in your case to spot them.
Well, just in general, it's that's generally how camouflage works. You have the more colours, the more broken up the shape looks, and the harder it is to distinguish the shape.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah.
And I don't know if you've seen, I'll put up a screenshot, but in World War II for a short while, I think it was, or World War One, they used dazzle camouflage on the ships, and that was random stripes and things to try and camouflage which direction the ship was heading. So if you looked at through a periscope from a submarine, you wouldn't be able to identify what kind of ship it was or which direction it's heading easily.
Yeah, and
so-
also the aiming devices were like screwed up. They didn't know the distance to the boat, to the ship. Yeah, it's very good. That's nice. Okay, okay.
So it's quite interesting what makes things easy to see, but the reality is no matter what colours you choose, there's always going to be blind spots. There's always going to be the sun that you're heading into, and there's always going to be you just not seeing something. You know, if something's moving straight towards you, you won't see that nearly as easily as if it's going sideways and you pick up the motion of it.
Precisely. Yeah.
So
But for our reference, at what distance do you see us? Normally, I mean, in general.
yeah, quite a way away.
Yeah.
Quite a way away from. If it depends how hazy the conditions are as well, I think.
Of course, but I mean, normal visual conditions. Yeah.
Yeah, I was seeing them miles out the other day in the footage I put up earlier, which I'll share with you sometime soon. And then, they're pretty hard to see on the GoPros because they're so wide angle. They make everything look really small. But I was able to see the Paragliders a good. It would be at least a minute before I got to them, or longer.
Okay.
You know, a good amount of time before I got to them.
Yeah.
So you'll have to come and fly in the nice clear conditions of New Zealand.
Yeah, that would be nice. Absolutely. Yeah. Okay, let's see if we have.
All right, Patrick, I'd like to thank you very much for spending some time, and
Thank you, Tom.
happy flying. It's winter over there at the moment, isn't it? So
You are going towards spring, so yeah.
Yeah. I will hope you have some good flying in the upcoming season.
Thank you very much. You too.